Sat down too hard. What's up, everyone? Alex here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. I have been gone for some time. I've been gone for so long, I have a new piercing. And I have gone through every iteration of facial hair possible, and now I look less like a Sasquatch, and more like a person. So that's a thing. Jeez. I've been around on the internet. I've been like posting the usual YB3 stuff on the blog and doing essays and updating so many things. I just did a whole sweep of all my social media for YB3 and changed like the profile pics, icons, headers. I changed like the little banner in my pin post on my blog. So we're up to date. Starting 2025 off would be a great opportunity to talk about binaries. So I am kind of rolling it back to introduce a very simple concept and talk about binaries and using the binary to describe different gender concepts. And then this is like throughout the month, I'm going to talk about the binary, using binary concepts to describe things, gender specifically, and then like going into talking about, I don't know, we're going to talk about like more complex gender stuff, just because, I don't know, 2025 feels like a brand new something or other happening. I don't know what, but I wanted to treat it like something brand new slate. I'm trying to bring the channel back, trying to bring Gender Buddies back. This is the only place I'm confirming I'm bringing the YB3 zine back. I mean, by the time you're watching this, I'll have already had the 32nd issue ready to go. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. It's taking me way too long to actually get to the topic. So great. A great start there is me rambling. So binaries. A lot of people, when they hear binary, especially in queer spaces, the go-to, like, I know exactly what you're talking about, is man and woman or boy and girl. It is the gender binary of male gender, female gender. And usually the implication is that it is male and masculine and female and feminine. The two can overlap, but it sometimes is just a binary of masculine, feminine, meaning like talking about gender expression. Sometimes people will say like, oh, you can present as feminine or masculine or both. Like people kind of see it in some kind of weird, like, very strict, like one or the other or both. I would still call that binarism. I do not think that it is necessarily inclusive if people have like a one or the other or both. Like your secret third option doesn't have to be both. I'll get into that probably in another video of the trinary mindset of things, thinking that the inclusive thing to do is to accept that both can happen at the same time. You could be a man or a woman or both. There's more than that, and it's not just neither either. Male, female, man, woman, masculine, feminine. Another one that people think are the only things that exist. AMAB and AFAB, assigned male at birth, assigned female at birth. People think like these are the two categories you fall under. And while a lot of well-meaning people will say that it has nothing to do with your gender, being AMAB doesn't mean you're a man. It has nothing to do with your current physiology. Even saying that is kind of tiptoeing into like radical territory. When I say radical, I mean an idea that is incredibly against the norm. I don't mean radical like turfism. That's a different story altogether. But the radical idea is that, like, if I say that I'm AFAB, that has nothing to do with my physiology. It has nothing to do with what my body looks like at all. It is a thing that happened in the past. It is a decision that a doctor made about you based on their own biases. And recently I realized I hadn't even considered that some people have multiple assigned genders at birth, particularly intersex people. They are assigned a gender by a doctor, by parents, by society, and they might even assign their own gender, though I think that more implies like your assignment was wrong and you have reassigned, like, I'm not this, I'm this actually. It's complicated, it's complex, but a lot of people are not even assigned male or female at birth. Sometimes it's undetermined, sometimes there's an X. Rarely, I don't know how many people have this particular experience, but sometimes you are assigned intersex at birth. Because you do not fall neatly into one or the other assignment. Also, the really important note is for AGAB specifically is that it's past tense. It's not an identifier. I would love to see just, I want to see like a push toward no longer seeing AGAB as an identifier. It's not that I am AFAB, I was AFAB. We have to remember what the acronym means and what it means to have been assigned. A doctor took a look at certain traits and based on their own understanding of binarism, strict binarism, they made a decision about your body and then put it on paper. And it's not always accurate, and it can change. Your AGAB can change, especially if you don't fall neatly into assigned female or assigned male. If it was an indecision or the doctor made some kind of change last minute, or maybe you had more than one assigned gender at birth, that happens. And seeing AFAB and AMAB as strictly the two things you can be and nothing else, not only is a misunderstanding of how assigned gender works, and how our biases about bodies and body categories works, we are forgetting intersex people in this conversation. And this is kind of a tangent, but I feel like with any kind of binary, especially ones that have to do with physiology and assigned gender and all that, I feel like intersex people are often forgotten, or they are kind of used as an afterthought, as a way to bolster your support of the trans community. And I know a lot of people don't mean to, but some people will be like, oh, it isn't just male or female, intersex people exist. And then there isn't really any further conversation. It's oh, there's a third thing. 1, 2, 3, and it's male, female, and then this other third thing, and then we don't explain it at all. And that's gotcha. Some people don't fit the one or the two, they're the third. But that also kind of erases the experiences of intersex people who are one or the other, or both, or neither, but not some kind of third thing. It's way more complex than just intersex people exist, so your argument is invalid. There's so much more to being intersex than just a way to support the transgender community, especially when a lot of intersex people are not trans or cis. We got to remember that. The whole female to male, male to female, that is another binary in kind of the same category as AFAB, AMAB a little bit. They're kind of used in a weird interchangeable way. Female to male, oh, those are AFABs, obviously. Male to female, those are AMABs, obviously. That's a lot of the thinking of some people. I don't like the so-and-so to so-and-so terminology for myself. I won't say male to female or female to male to refer to myself. I never have, and I never liked it because some people might understand that, like, I've been a guy the whole time. I've been a boy the whole time. It's also like strict one category and I'm moving to the other strict one category. A lot of people, it's like they're going from here to here to here, and like female to male to non-binary to agender. I've seen a lot of, like, the acronym is longer because they have transitioned from like point to point. And some people just don't vibe with this kind of terminology anyway, because male to female and female to male kind of gives away, it kind of leaves like an expectation. It's telling people that they should expect my body to be a certain way based on that acronym. So I don't necessarily like the FTM, MTF terminology. And it's not only very binary, but focuses too much on linearity, going from one to another when it's not always, being transgender doesn't mean you're going from a singular point forward to another point. There's so many other paths, especially like making all these weird ass gender discoveries about myself recently. It's not that simple. It's never that simple. It's gender, it's sex. I mentioned trans and cis as a dichotomy that some people might not fall into at all. It's not just intersex people that might not fit into trans or cis categories. It doesn't mean they can't be cis, and it doesn't mean they can't be trans. They are they're self-determined labels. So if an intersex person feels a connection to the cisgender label or the transgender label, they can absolutely use that. But there's the option of using both. There's also the option of using neither. And intersex isn't the third in the trans and cis like binary. There's so many other terms for explaining your relationship with gender. There's some where it's like I'm moving toward a certain gender, but my assigned gender has nothing to do with it. So I don't call it cis, I don't call it trans, I call it something else entirely, which I think is what ad gender is, AD gender. It is moving toward a specific type of gender, like ad masculine or ad feminine. It's almost like saying trans feminine or trans masculine, but there is no implication of moving away from another gender. So if I say that I'm ad gender, it hasn't, like, you don't know if I'm an ad gender man. There is no like assigned gender implied there. So a lot of people use terms like that. People use cis trans as a term, like just together, because for them, they either have a partial connection to their assigned gender at birth, or they're intersex and they feel that they fall into both at the same time, or any number of reasons. Just people have their reasons for using specific labels in complex, and I don't want to say convoluted, complex and almost contradictory ways from the outside, it seems. And that's just their decision. That's just how it works when using labels. Sometimes you use multiple labels to get a point across. That's definitely what I do. I have more labels than I have genders, and that's just normal. There's male and female as a binary, as in sex, not just assigned sex, but just sex in general. You know, I don't like the idea of like, I'm a man, but I'm female. I have always used male as the adjective for man for myself, because that's just how I view things. I do not call myself female or male, which is another video I'm coming up with that I'm going to be recording shortly. I don't call my sex male or female. I think both of those just don't fit. Some people might have like the requirements for being male or being female based on like how you would define those two sexes, but they might still not feel like they fall neatly into one or the other. Maybe they just don't vibe with that terminology. Male and female are not objective terminology. It is entirely subjective. Like, only you decide what labels to use to talk about your physiology. Like, I think it's very weird when other people attempt to do that for you. When you like look at a trans woman, it's like, yeah, she's a woman, but she's male, and like, I don't like that. Especially since bodies change. Like, bodies change, and just certain things just don't line up with how other people are trying to categorize you. When it comes to sex labels and assigned gender labels, I feel like that reveals a little too much to other people that they have no business knowing about me, which is why I kind of opt out of that kind of terminology for myself. You just don't need to know. There might be indicators that would make you make assumptions. Like, I've been on testosterone for a while, at least 5 years. I've been on and off of it lately because I just don't have transportation to Planned Parenthood, so that's like an entirely different issue. But you might infer some kind of something about me. I wear a binder, but like, other than that, like, you can't call that anything. You could ask, like, what do you like refer to your sex as, which I will cover in a video at some point. But like, the bottom line is that my sex is non-binary, and that's all it needs to be. There doesn't really need to be any other conversation about it. Gender is not what my body is doing or how people are seeing my body. It's not how I look, what my physiology is. Gender is an entirely social idea. So nobody needs to know all the physical specifications of my gender. Like, when I'm in discussions about gender, like, the physiology doesn't matter. I talked about man and woman being a binary concept. I had mentioned that first, but I had meant to mention it later on as its own point. I used it to kind of introduce the idea of binarity and binaries. But lots of identities exist outside of man and woman. It's not always like man, woman, or both, or man, woman, or none. And the neither, like man, woman, or neither of them, the neither is sometimes, countless numbers of genders. It's not just one singular, like, non-binary is not a singular gender, and a lot of people are not man or woman or genderless, don't consider themselves non-binary. Some people consider themselves non-binary men or non-binary women. In my case, non-binary man, among a bunch of other things that fall outside of the binary and outside of even non-binary. So we have to move away from the idea that there's just the two and then a third other one that doesn't fit the two. There's a lot more going on with that. And speaking of non-binary, the binary, non-binary thing, dichotomy, is a binary in and of itself, because a lot of people think that you either fall into binarity or non-binarity, and they're really, like, they don't see that there's others. And it's not just genderless. There are people who are not binary or non-binary. There are people who are xenogender who don't call themselves non-binary because it's non-human concepts that are being used to describe xenogenders. There are people who would rather be called abinary, meaning entirely removed from the binary, and to like avoid even the mention of binary, a lot of people call it aphorian, meaning being outside of like man and woman, entirely removed from that binary without any kind of even reference to it. A lot of people might think that they're being inclusive by seeing it as binary or non-binary and thinking those are the two categories for every single thing. But there's a lot more than that. If you look up just any gender wiki where you're looking up like specific gender terms, you're going to find that there's more than just the non-binary category. There's others as well that are far away from the binary and are not non-binary, just outside of that convention. Dysphoric and non-dysphoric is another binary. This, I can understand where people might, like, they might accept that, you know, some trans people are dysphoric, some are not dysphoric. And those are like the two ways to be, and people will be inclusive of both those experiences, which, like, that is great. Some people have very specific dysphoria in some places and lack of dysphoria in other places. Some people might experience like a sliding scale of dysphoria where it's like it's more intense one day and then like non-existent the next, but they could be between those two at any point and feel varying states of dysphoria. Some people are just kind of right in the middle, not feeling dysphoric or non-dysphoric, maybe even just like apathy, neutrality toward dysphoria or euphoria, or dysphoria and non-dysphoria. Like, it just it depends on the individual and their experiences with gender, how society pressures gender or uses gender as a pressure on them. That's typically where dysphoria comes from. It varies from person to person. So a lot of people are not just neatly dysphoric or non-dysphoric. I did mention masculine and feminine as a binary. It's usually attached to the male-female binary. Usually when we think the gender binary, it's masculine man and feminine woman, which I mentioned in the start of this video. Those are gender qualities, and I've taken like a really big interest in gender qualities, and on the YB3 Wiki I have like a whole page. I'm trying to make like a giant database of every gender quality that there is. So it's not just masculine, feminine, it's neutrality, it's abinarity, non-binarity. I have zenity, which is like related to xenogenders. These are not just expressions or presentations rather, but they are like the quality of some genders. Maverin is another one that I've talked about, which I'll be revisiting because I don't think I talked a lot about it here. But I want to talk a lot about Maverinity soon. Null is another gender quality. There's dozens and dozens of them, and that's where you get a lot of your like transmasculine, transfeminine, transneutral, transnull. They can express themselves as transgender identities, usually as a way to connect with a certain quality or transition to a certain quality's expression. And they could be used in any kind of combination. But you can also consider yourself as having not having a gender quality. It's similar to alignment in a way. But yeah, there isn't just masculine and feminine. There's a lot. There's a lot of different gender qualities out there. That's pretty much it. We talked about binaries. I am also doing a video. Well, it's kind of going to be a video. I don't know if it's going to be a video for sure, but I'm coming up with at least a written version of this, and it's going to be the gender trinary, or even just trinarism as a topic, as an idea. So it's the idea that I brought up, that it's like male, female, and other, or male, female, neither, where you see it in threes. We've seen this with this gender trinary stuff going around, which I have like, I've deconstructed that idea. I do not use that as a way to describe even my own gender. As helpful as like I thought it would be to be like, oh, my gender's outside of the trinary, or I have a gender that's, it feels like it's outside of the trinary, or I'm within this space in the trinary. Harmful rhetoric. I have compiled screenshots of how the argument falls apart, how the idea falls apart, where a lot of places that define the trinary, it's like, oh, it's usually it's usually male, female, and non-binary. Sometimes it's male, female, agender. Sometimes it's male, female, and androgynous or something. It doesn't seem like there is a set definition because it's a incredibly flawed and harmful concept. So I'm putting a whole video or something together about trinarism to kind of supplement this video about binarism, because it's equally not as inclusive if you say that you could be one or the other or something else. It's so much more complex than that. So that's what I'm going to be doing, working on. I don't know when it'll come out. I'm working on 5,000 things at once. But I'm glad to be back. I can't make any promises for how often I'm uploading, but my target is like every Monday, like I used to. That would make 5 videos in March because there's 5 Mondays. I've always done that. Usually the 5th video is something random that doesn't fit with the other like talking points for that month, but we'll see what happens. I'm everywhere on the internet. I'm still active in the Discord server. I'm on Tumblr every single day, all the time, replying to people and making flags and all that. I'm constantly updating my wiki. I'm on Bluesky now. You'll find that on my card. If I remember, I'll try to put it in the description. My Bluesky is basically kind of what I do on my main on Tumblr, where it's just I'm talking about plans for projects and like showing off stuff that I've worked on like for other social media. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope everyone's doing well. Stay warm. It's very warm in here right now. And I'm signing off for now. See you later.